Charity. Sun beamed in through your window, warming your skin as you lay comfortably on your bed. With your gaze firmly fixed on the ceiling, you trailed your eyes over the blank expanse, enjoying your time doing nothing at all. Though it had been nice to rest on your own for a while, you decided it was probably about time to get up and do something more productive. With a small groan, you pushed yourself up on your elbows and dragged yourself up off the bed, deciding what to do next. Thinking that you'd rather spend a little more time on your own, you settled on going for a walk while the weather was still nice. Heading downstairs, you found Ma lounging in the living room, seated on the couch with her legs tucked up and a magazine in her lap. She looked up at the sound of your footsteps, giving you a smile.
How are you?
Hello, sweetie. What are you up to? Not much. I'm gonna take a walk down to the beach. Maybe visit the shopping street. That sounds wonderful. She nodded happily and then made a small gasp as her eyebrows shot up. Actually, that reminds me. Mr. Holden and Cove said Cove was volunteering for the Orchid Group recently. They've got that big fundraising dinner coming up. Me and your mom wanted to go, but unfortunately we can't make it that night. She sighed melodramatically before turning her smile on you, and you resisted the urge to shake your head. You knew exactly what was going on. It'd mean a lot if you went instead, Risa, to show support from our family. I'll buy the ticket for you, of course. All you'd have to do is show up. It's for a good cause, and it'd be such a sweet thing for you to do for our neighbors. Don't you think? You sighed quietly, you groaned loudly, you chuckled lightly, you rolled your eyes, you smiled at her. You sighed. You didn't particularly want to go, but you also didn't like disappointing Ma. Okay, I'll go. Ma beamed and stood from the couch, coming over to pull you in for a brief side hug and squeezing her cheek against yours. Thank you, Risa. I love you very much. Love you too, Ma. She let go and stepped back, keeping a hand on your arm. There should be a stall at the shopping street selling tickets. Can you check how much they are? I'll get the cash later today and go buy one. You agreed with a nod. You had planned on heading over there anyway, so it wouldn't be out of your way. I can do that. Thanks again, sweetie. Have a good walk. I will. Bye, Ma. Strolling out the front door, you shut it behind you and let out a deep breath. You had gone from doing absolutely nothing to now having this new event added to your schedule. With a small sigh, you began to walk to the shopping street. You hit the shopping street and casually walked along beneath the afternoon rays, window shopping and browsing through the various stalls that were set up around the place. It didn't take long until you spotted Cove's bright seafoam hair behind a counter, and the banner advertising the fundraising event. Cove caught your eye as you approached. His mouth dropped open a little, looking surprised to see you there today. He continued to look at you in confusion as you approached, making you feel a little uncomfortable. But you came to a stop in front of the booth and inspected the little plush sea animals that decorated it. Hey, Risa, are you interested in the event? Ma sent me here. She wants to know how much the tickets are. He nodded, his fingers curling tightly around the clipboard he held in his hands. Well, they're $150 each. Wow, that's expensive. I mean, I've never been to a fundraising event, but my goodness. Just for an event? I don't go places. I am literally the social anxiety person. I don't go places. That sounds expensive. That seems high. Are all the tickets the same price? Yep, they are. Cove shrugged, glancing down at his clipboard as he answered. It's definitely not something I would normally be at, but it seems to fit the type of people who are into that kind of thing. Most people that have bought tickets wrote a check for it, have never written a check for anything before. You frowned a bit at the tangent conversation had gone down. And upon seeing the look on your face, he trailed off and cleared his throat slightly. A couple of people did have cash, though, but yeah, that's the answer to your question. You took your phone out from your pocket and searched through your contacts for Ma's number. I'm gonna send Ma the price for the ticket. It'll be a second. And she wanted me to tell you she said hi. Oh, sure, take your time. You stepped away from the booth to clear the space and tapped out a message to Ma, letting her know all the details. It didn't take long for your phone to buzz in with her reply. Thanks for letting me know. I'll try to get there today. When are they closing up? You headed back over to Cove, who was smiling at a few people walking by. Ma wants to know when you'll be leaving today. 6 p.m. You sent the information through to Ma once more, who replied that sounded perfect. And with everything settled, you slipped your phone into your pocket once again. Thanks. Ma will be down to pick up a ticket for me. Sounds good to me. I'll put one aside for her. Wait, for you? My parents are busy that night, but I'll still go. Thanks? You nodded shyly. It was weird talking about how you were going to attend his big special event. It almost felt like you were intruding. And then nothing else happened. You went on your way. Well, bye. Bye. I'll see you at the event, right? Yeah. His lips tilted into a small smile. Thank you for the donation. You waved in reply before turning and heading back off down the street. The day drifted by. You spent some more time browsing through the shops and grabbing a bite to eat before heading home. A little later, your phone buzzed in your pocket. It was Ma saying she had snagged a ticket for you. You sent a message back to thank her, thinking to yourself that it was now official. The fundraising dinner was just around the corner, and you needed to make sure you were ready to attend. The days continued on in a normal flow, and before long, the night of the Orca fundraising dinner was upon you. It was early evening, and you were in your room getting ready as the minutes ticked closer and closer towards the time you needed to leave. You wanted some privacy, so you had locked yourself away on your own. Liz was helping you pick out an outfit. You stood in front of her, considering different items while she sat on the edge of your bed, lips pursed tight. She had given a firm yes or no to each item you showed her, which had now reduced your options down into a small pile to choose from. The event had strict guidelines, and you wouldn't be let in unless you were dressed to code. That meant having to find a truly professional outfit, but one that you were also happy with. You were happy to have the chance to dress fancy, you wanted to be practical about it, you weren't happy about having to dress up, you wanted to be practical. It was going to be quite a long evening, so you wanted to make sure you were dressed comfortably while still sticking to the letter of the code. Your nose wrinkled in thought as you rifled through the options, silently weighing the pros and cons of each. You don't need to get too in your head thinking about the look, but you do need to hurry up and pick something. Oh, aren't you helpful, Liz? Don't push me, Liz. You laughed a little. You shook your head. You needed to be happy and comfortable with whatever choice you made. Taking a deep breath to refocus yourself, you looked over the options one last time. It was time to decide on an outfit, and quick. You chose dress. You chose a button-down shirt and pants. You chose a blouse and pants. You chose a button-down shirt skirt. You chose a blouse and shirt. Blouse and pants. Liz nodded in approval, clapping her hands together, satisfied. Finally, we're making some progress. Standing in front of your mirror, you quietly assessed your outfit. Thought about adding an accessory or two. It needed a little something extra to finish it all off. Rummaging through the rest of your wardrobe, you picked out what you needed to complete your outfit. A necklace. Turning back to the mirror, you let Liz drape your best necklace around your neck and clasp it together at the back. A shawl. Just in case it got cold during the evening, you need a shawl to drape over your shoulders. Earrings, I guess. Hurried to put on a pair of earrings to match your outfit, aware that time was running short. That was everything. And with that, you were ready to go. Finally, you were dressed. It had all come together. Cove sent through a text saying he was heading to the car and would see you in a bit. When you looked at Liz again, she had a goofy smile pulling on her lips. You look very nice, Risa. Thank you. You twisted around your outfit excitedly. I do look good, don't I? Now you're talking like our moms. She blushed and smiled at the compliment. Sneaking a glance in the mirror, you knew the outfit you picked was the right choice. Liz wiped a pretend tear away with her fingers, sniffling dramatically. Oh, precious Risa, you're really all grown up. It happened in the blink of an eye when I wasn't even looking. She chuckled to herself, nudging you towards the door. All right, time to get downstairs. Your ocean conservation extravaganza awaits. You carefully headed down the stairs and into the living room where your moms were waiting for your appearance. As you entered, they both stood from the couch and came over to you, smiling broadly. You look so wonderful, Risa, and very mature, too. I know, right? They continued to coo and fuss over you until you managed to brush them off. Ma took Mom by the arm and held her close, the two of them admiring you proudly. You enjoyed the attention. Thank you. You sighed dramatically. I already got this from Liz. You wondered why they were making such a big deal. Liz came over to you and smirked, as if she was reading the very thoughts in your head. You'll have to get used to it one day, Risa. You're the baby of the family, after all. Ma came in to give you one last hug, and before you knew it, another pair of arms was wrapped around you. Then a third. Both Mom and Liz giggled as they hugged you tight. We hope you have so much fun tonight. We won't wait up for you. Stay out as long as you need. You're old enough now. With a last wave goodbye, you left your family and approached the front door. It was time. Stepping out into the night, you closed the door behind you gently, looking out across the street. Cove was standing there as expected, next to the garage of his house, and tapping away on his phone. He looked up at the sound of the door closing. Hey, Risa. Hi. You took the chance to check over his outfit as he walked across the way to meet you. It was formal for sure, though didn't feel overly posh. It made sense for him. He smiled at you, but there was definitely an awkwardness hanging in the air, as there tended to be when the two of you hung out. Since you were going to the same place, it made sense to carpool, so officially you were going to the event together.
Thanks.
Thanks for dressing up for the thing. Your outfit looks good. She's shy. Social anxiety. It was one thing for your family to compliment the way you looked, as they had been doing it all your life. It felt nice to hear someone else say it for a change. Then he shook his head, glanced back towards the garage, and throwing a thumb over his shoulder spoke. We should probably get going. Wouldn't want to be late to such a grown-up event, right? Yeah, let's go. You headed over to Cove's car together, hopping in and strapping on your seatbelts. You were on your way. The event was being held at a place you had never been to before. You brought up the location on your phone to help Cove navigate there. It took some time to find the right address, and once there, you were met with the task of finding a parking spot. Though you were on time, it seemed like everyone else had already showed up and claimed the spaces. Eventually, you found a suitable place, before realizing that it required payment. Cove covered the amount, taking a ticket from the machine and leaving it on the dashboard of the car. Despite the small holdup, you managed to ultimately make it to the event and confirm you were on the guest list before being shown to the dining area. That's pretty. Cove whistled low as he looked around, taking in the extravagance of the room. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the entire place was decked out with beautiful oceanic displays. You were stunned yourself. It was extremely high class, even more so than you had already expected. It's so nice. This is the best-looking event I've ever been to. It's way too frilly for me. It's so overdone. Could be worse. You didn't comment. You simply looked around at all the lights and crystals everywhere. The sound of Cove's name being called out echoed over the din of the room. When you looked around, there were a couple of unfamiliar people coming your way. They headed over to greet Cove, giving you both a welcoming smile and hello. We're glad to see you could make it, Cove, especially after all the hard work you've done to help make this night happen.
Of course.
Definitely, I wasn't going to miss it. And I don't think we caught your name. They turned to you next, giving you an expectant look. Oh, I'm Risa. Hi. That's wonderful. It's nice to meet you, Risa. I hope you enjoy yourself tonight. Thank you. Cove, we have to thank you for everything you've done for Orca. You're always welcome to join in on more activities when they come up. You too, Risa, if you ever decide that's something you're interested in. You nodded your head in understanding, giving a small smile. Well, we'd better head off to greet the other guests. It was lovely speaking with you both. You all said your goodbyes, and they faded off into the crowd, leaving you and Cove on your own once more. Cove shrugged, then, eyes darting around the place with an awkward look.
So...
I guess we should talk to more people. There isn't much else to do at an event like this. You found your way into groups of people who were standing around chatting while some light music played in the background. Servers with large silver trays were gliding between the guests, offering drinks and canapes? Think that's it? Cove was clearly hesitant to actually approach the people, but was able to respond when various people greeted him first. You weren't so good in social situations yourself, so mostly followed Cove around and joined in on his conversations. Luckily, everyone there that night was polite. The sound of a microphone crackling came from the podium at the other end of the room. Someone who you assumed must be the host for the evening was asking everyone to sit down in preparation for the meal and speeches. You and Cove looked for your table, finding it easily enough by the little name cards that were placed delicately beside the napkins. A few others joined you at the table, though they weren't anyone you recognized. The host was still speaking as people were settling, starting off the speeches by giving a welcome to everyone attending. She went on to provide some more information about Orca, which you supposed was for the guests who weren't a part of the organization, and the purpose of the fundraiser tonight. Orca's goals, as she explained it, were to aid in the conservation and restoration of oceans and beaches. There were many people who had helped to make the group as successful as it was. When she read off a list of several volunteers who worked on making the event happen, Cove's name was one of the first to come up. His cheeks flushed with shy pride at that. Aww. As she continued on to thank the large donors for the event, you checked over on Cove. He was still grinning happily to himself and tapping his fingers on the tops of his knees, pretty pleased to have been mentioned by name. You laughed quietly at his reaction. You rolled your eyes. You were excited for him. You tried to keep focused on the speech. He had worked so hard to make this event happen. It was the least he deserved. While the host continued speaking, multiple servers dressed in black were setting the first course of the menu in front of guests. One of the servers set down a plate in front of you, and you thanked them quietly before looking over the dish with interest. You recognized it as a simple Caesar salad. The host quickly wrapped up the end of her speech, thanking everyone once more before inviting you all to begin your meal. Anyone who had included a special dietary note when signing up for the event received a vegan or vegetarian version, and there were also small baskets of bread set around the table. You ate both the salad and the bread. Cove wolfed down his salad before munching into a breadstick, quickly devouring that as well. I hope the next part comes out soon and is bigger. You could hear him mumbling to himself as he reached over for another piece of bread. He glanced around the table, and you followed his line of sight with curiosity, noting that everyone else was still eating the salad. Stopping his hand mid-air, he quickly pulled back and rested it on his lap without taking another breadstick after all. It was clear that he was starting to feel unsure of himself, and he looked a little out of place here. He watched as he closed his eyes and let out a small breath. Then he reached over again and took another piece of bread, purposefully turning away from the table as he ate. Hey, did you like the salad? It was really good. It was too small. It was alright. It was pretty bad. He simply shrugged. It's alright. I've had better. It wasn't much longer until the main course was arriving, and the various chicken, steak, and veggie dishes were being served throughout the room. An array of scents wafted through the room, making your mouth water. You went with the vegetarian meal. You had opted for the vegetarian dish, and the meal that was set in front of you looked so delicious that you couldn't wait to tuck in. Cove had gone for the steak, and once he started to dig in, he was completely absorbed by his meal. You're gonna choke if you keep inhaling your food like that. You flicked something at him while he was off guard. You focused on your own food. It was going to be a full evening, so you wanted to try eating something while you could. Dinner eventually ended, and last of all was dessert, a lemon sorbet that had been partially dyed blue. The mix of white and bold streaks of blue made the little scoop look like a ball of roaring ocean waves. The effect was very pretty, but the serving size was small. Perhaps it was the price to pay for artistry. You turned to Cove to find him pouting a little at the size of it. Digging into the dessert, it only took him a few bites to polish it off. Again, the other people around the table had barely even begun eating. An unimpressed air settled over him as he sat back in his chair, sipping at his water unhappily. You should appreciate what you got. You laughed at his moping. You're such a big baby. We can get more dessert later. You cleared your throat. He looked up at you sheepishly, embarrassed to have been caught sulking over such a thing. He fumbled for a defense. It was just really good, that's all, and now it's gone, but I'm okay. With a slight grin, he shrugged to show that he was really fine. Alright, Cove. You spooned a mouthful of the sorbet into your mouth, enjoying the bright, citrusy taste in your tongue. It really was delicious. Another person from Orca got up on stage to make a speech as everyone was nearing the end of their meal. They spoke mostly about the individual projects and the organization that the organization was working on, and their plans for the near future, as well as encouraging anyone who was interested to consider volunteering. Cove bent forward over the table with his chin balanced on a hand, listening attentively to the words. As they came to a conclusion and everyone gave them a round of applause, Cove caught your eye and smiled. You wondered what would happen now. And then the lights dimmed. A couple of spotlights came on, projecting a water light effect around the room. Oh. The guests gushed over the ambiance, and you looked around with wide eyes at the ripples on the walls. The DJ that had previously been playing some soft mood music in the background announced that the floor was open for dancing, slowly turning the volume up so it drifted through the space. When he glanced at Cove, his eyebrows had shot up and he mumbled quietly. I didn't know there would be dancing. I guess it makes sense now that I think about it. He gave an awkward laugh as you both watched people rose from their seats. It was clear now that many of the donors were couples. A small crowd had started to form on the dance floor, and the DJ played a romantic song to get everyone started off. Cove propped an elbow on the table again, smushing his cheek on his hand as he idly let his gaze float over the small sea of guests. Do you want to dance? I'm going to try and find someone to dance with. You stayed seated. You didn't really want to dance at all, content with simply watching everyone else for a while. Relaxing at the table, you let the music wash over you while you observed the dancers twirling, spinning, and swaying out on the dance floor. It was nice to just sit there quietly for a moment, enjoying the atmosphere. The party eventually started to wind down, and at last it came to an end. When the main lights turned on, you blinked against the brightness of them, making sure you still had Cove in your sights. One final speaker came up to the podium on the stage, thanking all the guests for coming and wishing everyone a good night. It had been a long night, and you were ready to be on your way. Stifling a yawn with the back of your head, you walked together with Cove out to the parking lot. Every time. The other guests were doing the same, so you got stuck in a bit of a crowd. Though Cove was so tall, you could always see him, and it was easy enough not to get separated. The parking lot itself was quite big, and even more noticeable now with fewer cars blocking the view. It took a little while to actually locate Cove's car across its expanse. Eventually you found it, and the two of you bundled inside the vehicle and buckled up. The trip home was quiet as you both silently reflected back on the experience. The event had been the biggest night of the year for Orca, and now it was all over, just like that. Outside your window, the surroundings soon became familiar, and you found yourselves back in your own neighborhood. Cove pulled the car into his driveway and put it in park before letting out a relieved breath. Home sweet home. Yeah. After climbing out of the car, you walked slowly down the road, Cove coming over to stand beside you. You stopped in the middle of the street, right between your house and his, and turned to him, finding him in the process of opening his mouth to speak. Strangely, he clamped his lips together as though he had suddenly thought better of it. You also stayed silent. That was quite a night. Good night, Cove. Thank you for taking me tonight. It was kind of awkward. You also stayed silent. There was an unusual atmosphere hanging about. It was hard to know what to say. Night. Night, Risa. With a last wispy smile, he left towards his front door. Figuring you shouldn't linger in the street for much longer, you crossed the remainder of the road and did the same. When you reached your house, you pulled out your keys and stuck them in the door, trying your best to be silent about it. It was quite late, so everyone else was already asleep. As quiet as a mouse, you tiptoed up to your bedroom and changed out of your formal clothes into your pajamas. Now that you were finally home, you were exhausted. You brushed your teeth and got ready for bed in darkness, before crawling under the covers and letting out a heavy breath. It was still strange to think about how that was it. The build-up to the event had felt like so much. Now it was completely behind you. Your mind was busy with rapid yet muddled thoughts as you faded closer and closer to sleep. An unconsciousness creeped up on you. You felt more content. It was a big deal, but there would be more in the future. You could accept what it had been, and you could dream about what you'd get to experience next. And then you pulled away dreams and right back into reality when your phone went off. It buzzed twice and then fell silent. Who would be texting you right now? You sleepily wondered if it was worth checking. I keep wondering if something might happen with Cove, but I have no idea, so I'm going to ignore it and sleep. Because social anxiety. I keep saying that as if it means anything more than what I'm doing. You rolled over and got comfortable again. You pulled up your blanket and nestled underneath it. With a little bit of wiggling, you were at peace once more. Your eyes grew heavy as you figured that you needed your rest now. Everything else could wait for another time. You had done enough for today. A drive. Like a lazy cat, you stretched your arms above your head and yawned. You hit your eyes sleepily. Fuck. The day was warm and pleasant, and you were lounging on the couch in the living room, finding it difficult to do much in that moment. Your moms and Liz had gone out shopping, looking for some new items for your sister to take back and decorate her college dorm with. They had asked if you wanted to go with them, but you declined. For you, today was all about relaxation. You propped your feet up on the back of the couch and stuffed a comfy cushion beneath your head, settling in for a nice long afternoon nap. Until you were interrupted by a delicate knocking on the door. You hadn't been expecting anyone to stop by, and your family would never knock before entering their own house. Before you had a chance to think more on it, whoever was at the door knocked again, and with a groan, you roused yourself from the couch. Dragging your feet all the way, you headed over to the door and pulled it open. Cove was standing on the doorstep, his lips pulled into an awkward smile at the sight of you. You ran a hand over your hair, knowing it was probably looking disheveled from your attempted nap. Hi, is there anything you need? Cove looked away quickly, his eyebrows crinkled, as though he might have regretted coming over here at all.
Hey.
Hi, Risa. I was wondering if you might help me out with something. Okay, I'm listening. I'm not sure about that. You waited for him to elaborate. He dragged a foot awkwardly over the pavement in front of him before speaking again. Can I explain? With a nod, you indicated for him to go ahead. He seemed more nervous than usual, and you began to worry what he could possibly want. He took in another little breath, gathering his nerves. So, the thing is, I need to drive out to my mom's place in Nevada. There's some stuff I'll have to pick up since I'm not really going to be staying with her like I used to. I flew there the last time, and every time I've gone there, so I couldn't bring much back with me. I'll be taking a 2-day trip. I'm going to drive all the way there in one go, stay the night, pack up, and leave the next morning. He paused for a moment, scanning your face for any sign of a reaction. Okay, do you want me to water plants at your house or something? He hesitated, his eyes dropping to the ground. No, my dad always takes care of that. I was actually wondering if you might come with me. Road trip. Oh no. If there's an option to say no, I'm gonna have to, because that's how I've been going. Right? Your eyebrows shot up in disbelief, and a small surprised sound slipped past your lips. This was definitely not what you had expected him to ask you. Cove cut in to explain further before you'd had a chance to respond. It'll be a 10 to 12 hour drive one way. I've never driven that long before. My parents, but also me too, think it'd be better if there was someone there with me, for safety and everything. He pulled his lips into a tight smile as he scratched his face uncomfortably. You couldn't help but feel a little bad for him. He seemed pretty embarrassed for having asked at all. Cove sighed, watching as you silently commiserated before rambling on. I could have asked Terry, but she gets carsick on long drives. If you came, we could go whenever you're free, and I could pay you for it if that helps. Maybe we could even stop somewhere interesting along the way, make it like a real trip instead of a chore. Oh, the idea of road tripping with friends sounds so fun. But I mean, that's something I'd totally do in a different playthrough. He stopped talking completely and rubbed his arm awkwardly, suddenly determined not to meet your eyes. You finally pulled yourself together enough to think about his proposal. It's something I'd totally do in another playthrough. Sure, I'll come. You don't have to pay me or anything. I'll come. How much will I get for that? Am I gonna have to buy food? If you're paying for gas and snacks and all that, then I can come along. I can't fit that in anywhere, I'm sorry. I don't want to. I don't want to sounds too blunt. Can't fit that in anywhere in the nothing I'm doing. You were busy this summer and couldn't have a multi-day trip suddenly sprung on you. Cove frowned, his eyebrows settling back into their dipped position. Okay, I just thought I'd ask about it. He walked backwards and slowly pulled his hands from his pockets to wave goodbye. I'll see you later. Bye, Cove. And then nothing happened. With one last wave, you closed the door and returned to the couch, dropping down on the cushions to resume your relaxation. You still thought it was strange that of all people, Cove had asked you to go along on his trip with him. While you hoped his drive went well, you knew you just couldn't commit to doing something that big. With a conclusive sigh, you closed your eyes and curled up to let the time pass by uneventfully. And then nothing happened.